Welcome back. We are continuing. We are now on question number 5, trigonometric graphs. They say the diagram below, it shows the graph of h, which is given by a sine 2x, and k, which is given by 2 cos x. All right. The first question, it says 5.1, write down the value of a. This should be very easy. Remember, what is a? A is given here. A represents the amplitude, the highest point on the graph. So A is found on the graph of h, and here is that point there. So how much is that? That is going to be 2. So the value of A, it is equals to 2. 5.2, write down the domain of the graph of h. The domain of the graph of h, our graph of h starts here, and then it goes up and down, and then it ends here. So you're just going to say x, it's an element of from 0 degrees up until 270 degrees. That is your domain. Domain, you are looking at the x values. It's a set of x values. 5.3, determine the period of k. Be very careful. This is the equation, the graph that we are being asked of. So we need to write down the period of k. The period of k, it is determined by dividing by the value that is next to x here, and the value that is next to x in this case, it is 1. So the period is going to be 360 degrees divided by 1, which is just going to be 360 degrees. If we were asked to determine the period of the graph of h, we were going to divide 360 degrees by 2, but they are asking for the period of k. So the period of k is 360 degrees. 5.4, write down the intervals, or the interval for which h of x is less than or equals to k of x. You shouldn't stress by these ones, guys. So what you're going to do when they're talking about something that is less, it means that we're going to look at the graph of h, where the graph of h is below the graph of k. So we're going to check on our graph, where do we find the graph of h to be below. So this is our graph, the graph of h. I'm going to give it a color there. And then let's identify the graph of k. So this is the graph of k in green. So we're going to look where the graph of h is below. Where do we find the graph of h to be below? The graph of h, we find it to be below here. We find it to be also below here. Here. So it is below here. It is below here. It is below. So they want those values of x. So firstly, it is below from 0 to 90 degrees. That's where it is below. And then also this portion here. Do you see that portion? That's where the graph of h is below. So the value of x, we can say it's 210 degrees and 270 degrees. So how are we going to write this mathematically? We're going to say that it is below where x is an element of, let me just write this correctly. X is an element of from 0 degrees up until 90 degrees. And also where 210 degrees. 210 degrees up until where 270 degrees. That's where we find the graph of h to be below the graph of k. And be very careful, I'm using the square brackets because of the sign that is given to me. They say less or equal to. So it means that these points are included. All right. Now they say that the graph of f is obtained when the graph of h is shifted 30 degrees to the left, okay, and 1 unit down. Write down the new equation in its simplest form. Okay, some important information here that you need to note. When they say the graph is shifted to the left, you are adding. When the graphs, they say that it is shifted to the right, you must subtract. When the graph is going upwards, you are adding. When the graph is going downwards, you are subtracting. So we're going to look at the graph of h. So this is the graph of h. So let's just rewrite the original graph of h. So the graph of h is going to be, we found that a is 2, so we've got 2 sine x, 2 sine 2x basically. So we're going to write down the new graph of f. So that means that it's going to be 2 sine of 2x. When you are shifting left and right, you are affecting what's on the x-axis. So we're going to add or subtract within the x-axis. So they say that it is shifting 30 degrees to the left. So it means that we are adding 30 degrees. And then 1 unit downwards, we are here. So it means that we must subtract 1. So this is the new equation of the graph of h, of the graph of f, I mean. So your f of x is going to be 2 into the sine of 2x plus 30 degrees. You close that and then you subtract 1. That is your equation. That brings us to the end of question number 5. Let's see what we can do with question number 6.